All right. It's been a little while since we've taken an overall look at the upcoming winter, so I wanted to today kind of just back up for a minute and take a look at what things are currently looking like and what we can really expect for the upcoming winter. So that's what today's video is going to be about. It's been quite a while, like I mentioned. We see our La Nina staring at us here. We're taking a look at sea surface temperatures. The La Nina staring at us in there. And also another factor that's really going to play in this winter is this warm air or warm water area here. I'm so used to saying air mass. So we see water, really warm water here in the Pacific, especially the eastern Pacific here. And remember, weather typically moves from west to east. Okay, so we see downstream movement here. And what this is going to mean is the warm water here is going to warm up the air right above it, right? Because the sea surface temperatures here are right next to the air. It is going to influence the air a bit. It is going to lead towards warmer air. And that warm air is going to continue to head downstream, but especially here for the western portions of North America. So we see this warm water creating warm air heading downstream towards the western regions of North America. What do we call warm air in western North America? That's right, positive PNA. You guys have probably heard me say that for a long time now. So this warm water here indirectly or pretty much directly causes positive PNAs to occur more frequently, which therefore causes cold air to move from the Arctic regions to the eastern United States as opposed to the western United States. So I know that's a whole lot, but this is one of the biggest factors heading into the winter, and we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. The Atlantic is very warm, and this could cause some blocking, okay? So when we see more ridges in this area, and we've already addressed that we're going to probably see ridges in this area, it really only leaves this area right here for the cold air to move towards. So this is about as premium as a setup as you can possibly see for the entire central and eastern United States, really. So frequently we'll see this setup, and then we'll see another trough somewhere in this region here for Russia and other regions here in Asia. So we'll frequently see about 2 or 3 troughs happening during the wintertime. So we might see something like that. We might see it more towards Europe and the Middle East and other portions of Russia here as well. It could be somewhere else in there, but that's generally the setup we usually see. Now, something interesting, this is really interesting actually, guys. Like I mentioned, we have a La Nina, and this is actually a third-year La Nina. And a third-year La Nina has only happened, I think, 3 other times. So we have very minimal analogs to go based off of here. There really hasn't been enough third-year La Ninas to know much about them. Usually we see 1 to 2 La Ninas every time we see a La Nina. So a second-year La Nina, like we saw last year, isn't that rare. And we usually know what to expect in a second-year La Nina versus a first-year La Nina. But a third-year La Nina, again, limited sample size, so very interesting and really a historic winter on the way that we're not going to know much about. But there is a few factors just on this screen that I really like that I just mentioned, and everything is looking positive for a cold and snowy winter solely looking at this. Now, let's take a look at the La Nina chart just to see where things are headed. So here we are taking a look at it, and as you can see, we are pretty decently in a minor La Nina here, and this is where we expect to be for the winter time. December, January, February is the one we want to look at here. This one right here, I believe, is what we want to look at, and we could tell that we're almost certainly going to be in a weaker La Nina, if not a neutral, and so I highly doubt that. So probably a weaker La Nina for the entire winter, but nevertheless a La Nina. And another thing to look at here that's going to be interesting is as we approach the summertime, we should be exiting La Nina status into an El Nino or at least a neutral ENSO. But I think my favorite option is one of these lower ones and potentially heading into a 4th-year La Nina. I think that would be the most interesting because that has never occurred, at least not in recorded history, obviously. I'm sure if you look back for 2,000 years, it's probably happened before. But a 4th-year La Nina, that would be a first in recorded history. So I think that would be the most interesting and probably what I'm hoping for here. But it really doesn't matter what we're hoping for. That doesn't really influence what will actually happen. So that's just my thoughts. Now, let's go ahead and move on and take a look at some temperature guidance from the models and also precipitation as we approach the winter. So first things first, here is our CFS daily model. This is going to be our 5-day increments. So we'll take a look at this real quickly, and then we're going to move on to the monthly guidance, where we'll be able to see December, January, February, March, all of those temperatures and the precipitation. And at the very end, if you stay tuned with us, we'll take a look at the entire winter from December through the end of February, the temperatures and the precipitation according to some models. So really cool stuff coming up. But this is 5-day increments. Over the next 5 days, we expect really cold conditions across the nation, as you can see. As we continue things on to the next 5-day period, it's mostly the eastern United States that sees these cooler temperatures. There is some warmth here that is causing things to be more neutral along the west, but still cold nevertheless, really. As we approach the 23rd through the 28th, we see things warming even further out west. Again, that water off the Pacific is probably influencing the air temperatures here, causing overall a positive PNA, which again forces the cold air here into the eastern United States. Now, for the 28th here through the 3rd of December, things become a lot more neutral and confusing. We don't really get a clear picture here, so we're just going to continue on. And for the 3rd of December through the 8th of December, we do see some cooler temperatures switch back to the west and maybe more neutral for the east. It's important to note, actually very, very important to note, that even in cold winters, very, very cold winters, we still see warm-ups. So, for instance, in the east, it might be a very, very cold winter. We're still going to see some warm-ups here and there. It's going to be cold on both sides of the countries at different points, regardless. And the odds are we'll probably have a warm month. Out of December, January, and February, probably one of them in a cold winter will be warm compared to the rest. And could be December, could be January, could be February. It's too early to tell, but there usually is a winter thaw month, and that's to be expected. Now for the 8th through the 13th, things look very confusing. We see some warmth in some spots, some cool in some spots here, and some warmth in some other spots. So there's not a lot to pick up here from this pattern. But I think the biggest thing is when we close things out here, so this is the 20th through the 25th here, we do see what looks like, I would say, cold heading into the eastern United States once more as we approach the end of December. This model switches pretty frequently with the long-range stuff, like the end of December timeframe. So we'll take it with a grain of salt, and I will keep you guys updated on this from time to time. But this model, towards the end, flips a lot. The more accurate stuff is going to be back here, like the 13th of November, probably through the end of November. This model has a pretty good picture of what to expect. I would say after days 15 is when things get a little iffy here. As you can see, it just looks a little bit unclear beyond that point. So we'll take it with a grain of salt. We will come back to this eventually in a future video and update you guys on it. Now, for the monthly forecast here, here's November, the rest of November that is. So this is November 12th and forward. Now, I like this North America view because we can really get a clear picture. Look at how those warm waters are influencing the air temperatures. Again, this is the air temperatures now that we're taking a look at. So we can see rising temperatures in those areas where we saw warmer waters. It does influence it. And things move downstream, so we can expect to see it influence this portion of the country and really the North America in general. Again, this forces the cold air to mostly head into the central and eastern United States as these areas are warming. It's like water and oil. This area here is pretty much off limits to the colder air for the most part when we do see warmer temperatures set up in this region. Important to note, very, very important. Now, let's move on to December. This looks like a warmer month according to this model. This is the same model we just took a look at, except it's a little bit longer range. So it's no surprise here that it's really agreeing with what we just saw. Now, across a lot of the northern portions, it looks like there can be cold at times. Right now, according to this model, warmer mostly in the west here, as you can see, and the south central United States here, and then a little bit for the southeast. But really, the southern United States looks a lot warmer. According to this model right now, this could change, but right now, this is what we're taking a look at. Now, January is where things kind of start getting exciting. We see warmer temperatures overall for the southwest. In general, this could be called a positive PNA. I would say it's enough to be called a positive PNA. And we see the cold air mostly heading into the central and portions of the eastern United States. There's a little bit of a southeast ridge here. This will influence these areas. But for overall, most of the eastern and the central United States seeing colder temperatures for January 2023, according to this model. Now, for February 2023, I would say this looks a little bit better to me. Because overall, I know there's a colder pocket in there, but we see a lot of our western North America regions are warmer than normal. indicating a positive PNA, and we see colder air, not quite as far below normal, but really it is spread across the eastern United States, and that southeast ridge looks a little bit less apparent here, which is going to be good news for cold and snow lovers. Now let's move on. That's all 3 winter months. Let's take a look at the precipitation real quickly. And as we take a look at it, no need to take a look at the North America view here, but November, for instance, we see a little bit of above normal precipitation here in the southeast, but we're talking about the winter. So let's move on to December, and we do see plenty of storminess moving into the northwest. This is very much so expected during a La Nina, so there is no surprise here that we see above average precipitation here in the northwest. And this actually continues on across the north central United States, and it looks like we maybe get a southeast slider storm track in here where we do get above average precipitation across portions of the southeast. That's what that looks like to me. But really dry for the south central and in through the Ohio Valley and northeast for this month of December here, according to this model. Again, I'm emphasizing according to this model because this does not mean that it's for sure going to turn out like this. We have to keep that in mind. Now, January, we do get a little bit of dryness across the northwest here. Just to the south, though, we do get above average precipitation. So some storms may be moving across the country like this, causing really a lot of above average precipitation throughout these regions. But I think the most interesting one is this clear depiction of a nor'easter track taking place. Miller A, matter of fact, nor'easter track that looks to be potentially taking place here in January 2023, according to this model. This would lead towards a lot of snowfall, especially since this was the coldest month we saw on the temperature forecast. This would be a big time snow month if this is what we saw in fact. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, February, things dry up a little bit for the east. It looks like there is potentially some systems developing here, especially closer to the middle of the East Coast. Potentially some Miller B nor'easters taking place in here. This could also lead towards quite a bit of snowfall, but we see that the southeast misses out on a lot of this. And then we see the west in general drying up for the month of February. And then a lot of the central United States does see a slightly above average precipitation. So that is something to definitely note here at this point. Now, let's take a look at the entire 3-month period from December, January through February here, according to this model, the same exact model, but we'll take a look at the entirety of the winter on the temperature and precipitation forecast real quickly. So here's the temperature forecast for December, January through February for the winter of 2022 to 2023, and I quite agree with this. We see these warm temperatures in general out here over the Pacific Ocean due to those warm sea surface temperatures out there, and this does influence the southwest, as you can see. Again, things are moving downstream from west to east, and this is really impacting Mexico and the southwest. We do see some cooler temperatures potentially for the west coast of Canada, even up through Alaska, potentially, but that's not enough to hold back this cold from really heading into the central and the eastern United States, as you can see. The southeast ridge does play a bit of a role here, which is to be expected in La Nina years. Honestly, we do see more of that typically in these years. Another thing to note here is we see warmer temperatures over the Arctic regions, over the Arctic Circle. This is potentially a negative AO, Arctic oscillation. There's only so much Arctic air to go around, right? So when these areas are warmer, it forces that cold air to head everywhere else, as you can see. We really see this happening on the screen here, but the cold is everywhere else. The warm is over the Arctic. In a positive AO, so let's say there was colder temperatures up here in the Arctic region, we would probably see warmth everywhere down here, and we would just see the cold still bottled up here in the Arctic regions. It wouldn't be exiting that Arctic Circle because it's all just sticking up there. So that's why the Arctic oscillation is a big one as well to pay attention to. Now, the precipitation for the entirety of the winter, some good news for cold and snow lovers. It looks like the southeast, really in general, the eastern United States here, because of this nor'easter track that this model seems to think is going to be a popular one this winter. This could really play a big role this winter if we do see this take place, but this is where the most above average precipitation takes place. Potential for big time nor'easters to take place according to this model. We can also tell that there's going to be some storms moving across the north west and north central United States here, because we see a big swath of, in general, above average precipitation across this region as well. So for me, this seems like the two most popular storm tracks that we're going to see this upcoming winter. And the driest regions here seems to be this swath in here. That's what I would say. So it seems like there's going to be a lack of storms moving across the nation like this. Perhaps mostly like this and like this seems to be the most popular tracks. But everywhere will get their fair share of storminess, obviously. Most likely, there will be different storms that definitely don't follow this map exactly. It's a 3-month period, so some unexpected things are bound to take place, obviously. And this is just a model looking at a long-range forecast, so again, take it with a grain of salt. But this is the latest model indications of what to expect this upcoming winter. So I wanted to update you guys on that. I know a lot of you are curious. Thank you so much for watching. I will continue to update you guys not only on the upcoming pattern, but also on these long range things that we need to take a look at and pay attention to. I upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit that bell icon as well to get notified when I do upload. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video.